Hey, Saad here. Today I'm going to be showing you how to use psychology to actually sell automation. These are things I wish I knew when I first got started, and I'm talking with hundreds of freelancers, entrepreneurs, and also beginners. This is what they need to know. So if you ever felt like saying I do automation isn't enough to get people to buy, then this video is for you. To give you some context, when I first got started, I had zero sales skills because the only thing I knew was basically punching people in the face because I was a nightclub bouncer. Okay, so these are the things that I wish I knew when I first got started because that would have saved me a lot of time and energy and basically go straight to where I should be focusing on. Okay, another thing is that there's a lot of tutorials about AI and automation, AI agents, all this crap, right? But there's virtually no sales training on how to actually sell automation because that's how you make money. Because in order for you to make money, you need to sell things, right? We all know this. Another thing is that skill isn't enough. You have to communicate value, right? And you have to communicate value clearly, okay? So I know hundreds of freelancers who are great at what they do. They're really good at building automations, sales automation, etc. You name it. But they are broke, okay? Because they can't sell, okay? They can't sell. It doesn't matter if you can build, but if you can't sell, then you're not going to make money. So this is going to help a lot of beginners who want to make money with AI and automation, not to just build systems, but to sell them and create a real, sustainable, long-term business, right? Because we are here for the long term, right? I'm assuming you are here for the long term. You don't want to just do one-off projects and just call it a day, right? Because this game has two big things, right? It's building and selling, okay? There's two things. You don't just build, but you actually sell. And unfortunately, most people forget about the second one, which is selling. So the reason I'm doing this is to give you guys everything that you need, okay? So you can sell. And the best way to sell is to understand the psychology behind selling and be able to use it in your advantage. Because once you understand how selling really works, you'll not only use it to hit 10K, 15K, 20K, 30K, whatever your goal is, but you will also recognize when someone tries to use it on you. So the first thing we're going to talk about, and it took me a long time to understand this, is people don't buy automation. They buy status upgrades. And this is really, really important, okay? Because once you understand this, then everything just becomes natural to you and you'll be able to sell any automation on the planet very easy, okay? So in business or entrepreneurship or in life in general, we have a problem here, okay? So let's call this problem, okay? And this is where basically businesses are. So this is business or maybe just people, okay? Let's just call this people, right? And we have here a solution. Now your job is to essentially get them to the solution, which is the outcome. So in order for you to actually sell your automation, your sales systems or your sales automation, whatever you want to call it, you need to guide them and take their hand to the outcome, right? Which is your solution that's going to remove that problem. So this is essentially like business 101, right? When you remove a problem, when you create value that removes a problem, you make money. So the idea here is you should not sell the tech. You should sell the outcome of the tech. You know that meme of that iceberg that's in the middle of the sea, and on the surface of that iceberg, there's this thing that we think that we want, right? But in the bottom of that iceberg can find the real thing that we want. So let's pretend this is the sea, okay? And this is the iceberg. This is the thing that we think we want. But in reality, in the bottom, that's what we really want. Now, let's apply this to business. When you want to sell automation, okay? You want to sell it to a business, okay? Or like a decision maker or like a founder, whatever, okay? You want to be able to sell the identity, which is the status upgrade, okay? Not the tech, right? Because no one cares about the tech. They care about the identity that they're going to be in once they use the tech. In our case, the automation, the sales system, the sales automation, whatever, the automation is trying to sell. Now, you might be wondering inside, well, how do we leverage that? How do we sell the identity? So we're going to apply the same thing that we see in this iceberg, okay? So think about it. A decision maker or a business, okay? What do they want? Well, ultimately, they want more sales, more customers, more clients. But why do they want more sales, more customers? Let's actually peel back the layers, okay? What do they want? They want the status that comes with sales and customers and partners and etc. So you need to be able to leverage that every single time you want to try to sell, because any decision maker that works in a business or like a prospect or a client or humans in general, we all do anything in life based off three things, which is pain, trauma, and unmet needs. So you need to be able to leverage that to actually sell. Now, I know this might sound Machiavellian, but this is what sales are. If you go outside, everyone is trying to sell something. Like big corporations, multi-billion-dollar corporations are selling you something, okay? If you're not paying directly with money, you're paying your attention. And attention is the biggest currency in 2025. So now that we understand that we can leverage pain and trauma and unmet needs in our selling, let me just give you an example. So let's say you are talking to a founder or like a decision maker that is interested or like lukewarm about buying from you. Okay. So they say they want more clients, more deals, they want to save time, etc., etc. But what do they actually want? What do they want? If you peel back the layer, is they want to be respected by their team. They want to make money because they want security. They want their family to respect them because now they are successful, okay? So any business owner on the planet or like a decision maker that you're trying to sell your automation to, they have all of these hidden in their psyche, in their brain, okay? So you want to be able to get them to the set outcome, which is the new identity where they are winning. So your automation needs to bridge the gap in very, very clear terms, very, very simple terms on how they will achieve that new identity where they are respected by their team, where they have security, because your automation is going to get them more clients, more money, or more time that they want to spend with their family so they can respect them. And this applies to not only business owners that you're trying to sell to, but also like humans in general. Because think about it. We all do things based off these three things that I mentioned, which is pain, trauma, and unmet needs. Because you want to make money, because you want to take care of people you love. You want to make money because you want to achieve financial freedom, because you want to achieve location freedom. And if you really, really peel back the layer on that, you want to do it because you've made a promise to yourself, right? You want to do it because you want to do it for yourself and prove to yourself that you can do it. Okay? That's the really thing. See, when we get down into the real bottom of the things, because you need to understand that you're doing it for yourself, because the desert is within you. The kingdom of heaven is within you. Because think about all the promises that you've told yourself, right? You want to be able to have that identity where you are true to yourself, and that identity is you winning. Okay. So you need to be able to leverage that whenever you are with a prospect. So you want to sell them the outcome of the automation, and the automation is going to get them to the new identity where they are winning, respected, loved, and secure. The next thing we're going to be talking about, and this is contrary to the popular belief, is you never want to mention, never, ever mention things like refunds, money back, or you don't pay. Okay. And I'm going to explain to you why. You need to understand that humans, us humans, we think in images, okay? The greatest psychologist of all time, Carl Jung, he said, humans think in images. And let me just give you an example. When you envision yourself being successful, there's an image or a picture that appears in your mind when you are winning. And again, going back to the identity, it's that image and picture of you being in that identity of where you are winning. So your brain produces a picture where you are successful, respected, loved by your family and friends. So the thing here is that same principle applies. When you mention things like refunds, okay, you trigger loss of aversion, okay? This is basically the term. This is like it's called loss of aversion. Now I'm trying to explain it in very simple terms so you can understand, okay? When you mention refunds, your prospects can see it. They can see it. You're triggering that in their brain. You're literally painting the image of you giving them their money back because your automation or your sales system doesn't work. And the dangerous thing here is that now they are hesitant, right? And you lose your authority because it positions you in a weaker position. And I mean, think about it. Do you think Alex Hormozy, we all know Alex Hormozy. Do you think Alex Hormozy, when he provides like one-on-one coaching or like coaching in general, do you think he offers refunds? No, because it's Alex Hormozy, right? So you need to understand that even if he gives you the most basic bottle down, like water down advice ever that you already know, right? Because it's Alex Hormozy. So never mention things like refund your money back, because you're literally creating an image in their brain that your sales automation is not going to work. And now it destroys trust and puts you in a weaker position where you're not leading the conversation in authority, and therefore you're not going to sell anything. The third thing that you need to understand is the power of aligning the incentives. So you need to align the incentives, because you need to understand that people don't do anything for the sake of doing it, okay? The only thing people do things is because there's a reward at the end of the day. And Charlie Munger once said, show me the incentives and I'll show you the outcome. So you need to understand that people don't do what's right. They do what they are rewarded for. If you want to predict someone's behavior, look at what they gain or lose from doing it. So you need to align your automation to what they want. And it's usually what they want is more clients, more customers. That's all what they want, okay? They want more clients, more customers, because once you have more clients and more customers, everything else is just falling in its place, okay? So the idea here is you need to make it painful for them to stay stuck and rewarding if they move forward, okay? Okay, so now that you understand this, now we're going to talk about the Pavlovian dog style. And bear with me with a second. Dog style. Classical condition, operant conditioning, okay? And to give you some context, there's a scientist that's called Pavlov. He was a Russian scientist. So what he's done is he rang a bell whenever he fed a dog. The dog didn't understand at first what that bell was for, but after a while, the dog understood that whenever the bell rang, the food was coming. So even if there was no food, just the sound of the bell made the mouth of the dog salivate. So it learned to expect the food from the ring of the bell. So this is called classical conditioning and operant conditioning, Pavlov dog style conditioning, okay? So the idea here is that you can train someone to react a certain way based off a stimulus. So what do we do with this information? Well, you need to get your prospect hooked in the image of them winning, which is the desired state. And the best way to do it is to keep emphasizing on the desired state, aka the new identity that they will be in. So whenever you're talking to a prospect, you do not want to talk about the features of your automation, okay? You want to talk about the outcome. Show them the results. Paint a picture in their mind when they are respected, happy, and wealthy as the confident founder who doesn't have to chase leads, who doesn't have to worry about whether their pipeline is full or not. So every time you keep talking about the desired outcome, you ring a bell in their mind. So every time they picture themselves winning, not having to worry about sales, customers, or partners, right? Their team celebrating growth, their brain gets conditioned to expect the success from your system. They start salivating at the idea of what's coming. So what you're doing here is you're getting them hooked in the feeling of winning. They are mentally associating your service with the emotional payoff of growth, status, success. Over time, just the thought of those results, just the idea of them waking up to more deals will trigger that automatic positive reaction. So every step of the call, right, you want to keep emphasizing on that by making the feeling of winning so strong that they feel that they are already living in it. So they will be conditioned to expect it, and the decision to buy becomes inevitable. So that's a Pavlovian conditioning, but instead of ringing a bell, you're using the power of the desired outcome to get them hooked. So this is the desired outcome. This is identity B, let's call it B, where they are winning. And this is where they are here. Let's call this identity A. Okay. Now your job is to get them to identity B, again, like we talked about in the first principle. Okay, so final thoughts. You've got this. This should remind you of the power that you have. And you need to understand that it is entirely possible to use your free will to change whatever position you are in life. Once you understand that you got this power, you should be using it every single day and basically print money. Okay, so I always say this. You've done it before and you'll do it again. So you don't have to be a genius. You don't have to be the greatest salesperson or the greatest builder. You just need a little bit of both, which is unfortunately why most entrepreneurs, freelancers, and beginners are still stuck. It's either they are the best builder, but they suck at selling, therefore they're broke, or like they're really good at selling, but they don't know what to sell. Okay? So you just need a little bit of both and the courage to go straight to it and take what's yours, okay? Because you have to understand, we don't create success. We tune in into the frequency of the universe where we are already winning. And there's one thing that every human wants, which is winning.